I'm your host and MC, James Ross, and this is Quantum Leopard. This episode we have the wonderful Cheka. This set was recorded on the 22nd of June 2024 by Aniruddh Ojha at Bold. Aniruddh also did the editing, and the interview took place on the 23rd of September 2025. Content warnings on this set for revolutionary violence and self-harm. Enjoy!
You guys all right? Did you have a nice day? Guess who I met today? Jeremy Corbyn. I knew you were the only audience that would like that, so I had to tell you. But I met Jeremy Corbyn. It's actually, I got tricked into meeting Jeremy. I got tricked into canvassing for Jeremy Corbyn. But because I did a gig on Thursday, and this woman after the gig was like, "Hey, do you want to be friends?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to be friends." And then she messaged me and she was like, "Are you free on Saturday?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'm free." She was like, "Great, meet me at 4 p.m. We're canvassing for Jeremy Corbyn." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Is this how you get canvassers usually?" I was like, "I don't even live in Islington. I can't even vote for Jeremy Corbyn." Anyway, so that's what happened to me today. Also, someone told me recently I have to address my voice because apparently I sound quite posh. Do you think I sound posh? No, because I just think, look, God knew that my audience was going to be Guardian readers and was like, let's just make it easier for her, you know. No, this is what happens when you're born in London and then you move halfway through your childhood to the West Country. And I was like, fuck no, I'm not going to sound like that. No, thank you. I'd like to sound like I don't own a farm. No, no. But yeah, you guys are well? Your mental health all well? Yeah. Mixed. Because my mental health this year has actually been really great. Yeah. And the trick to that is leave the UK in the winter. That's the trick. Just leave. So in the winter, I went to New Orleans. Yeah. Has anyone here been to New Orleans? Oh, did you like it? It's so good. Okay, imagine London, but everyone's really friendly. And also black, which is better. And also really gay. They don't tell you, but it's this really gay city. And there was a gay Easter parade. And I love gay Easter much more than regular Easter. Because I've been thinking about it, actually, and Easter is the gayest of the Christian holidays. Because I used to live in Berlin, and I'd have friends, like gay friends, that would disappear on a Friday, and we wouldn't see them again until Monday. It's like, oh, when did you last see him? Hanging out with 12 other men. And then one of them kissed him on the cheek and then later stabbed him in the back. Pretty gay. Then he got nailed on a hilltop between 2 other men. My dream. Okay, you like that too much. But maybe Jeremy's free after this. We'll find out. He's not. Did you say, oh, fuck yeah? Now I'm organising a threesome between me, you, and Jeremy Corbyn. Are you down? Absolutely down for it. Oh, my God, I love it. Were you planning on having a threesome tonight? I feel like I've unlocked something here. I'm not inviting myself to it. I mean, I am free after this. We can go. But, were you, maybe? For legal reasons? What? Why? You can legally there's no illegal. What? Well, it's not illegal to have it. So anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, I'm getting completely distracted over here. This happened to me actually once at a gig. Last summer, I did my first ever solo show in Berlin. And because I used to live there, like, I'd sold out and it was going really well. Except there was this couple in the front row that, like, obviously weren't really enjoying themselves. And I was like, why would they come to my show? There's only me on. And then later in the bar, my friend Danny introduced me to them. She's like, this is so-and-so and so-and-so. And then they left and she was like, we were supposed to have a threesome tonight, but I cancelled it for your show. And I was like, well, no wonder they hated me. They were a German couple as well. They'd probably been planning this threesome for like 6 months. Oh, instead of having a threesome, they had to watch a British lady they'd never heard of do an hour of stand-up. Oh, God. Yeah, anyway, what was I talking about? I was trying to tell you about the revolution. And that's just like, I'm completely off topic and it's just threesomes now. Anyway. The revolution. No, it's just because it's such a hard time to be a person right now in the world, don't you think? Yeah. I actually think the weird times began at the beginning of last summer when those billionaires drowned in that submarine. That was such a great time. It was such a good time. Yeah, because obviously we didn't care or anything. But what was weird is I had a friend of mine that did care. And I was like, how did you get in the friendship group? Yeah. he was like, I'm so sad to think of them miles down at the bottom of the ocean running out of oxygen. And I was like, I'm not sad. There's plenty of oxygen up here. I'm sure some will trickle down eventually. I didn't care. And then after that, there was the orca uprising. Yes, that was so good. And so, like, if you don't know, there was like a group of orcas in the Mediterranean, like tipping yachts over. And it was a real relief, actually, because I thought I was going to have to do the revolution. And I was like, it's fine, the orcas are on it. Hope they have a Patreon. You like me too much, it's stressful. But thinking about the threesome we're going to have. But later, just finish the set. But the press nicknamed the lead orca White Gladys. And I was like, first of all, she's not white. No white woman would lead the revolution. Have you met white women? Very self-involved. My mother's white. And secondly, she's an orca, so clearly she's biracial. That's how orcas work. Yeah, I am quite excited about it. Are we excited about the upcoming revolution? This is what I said to Jeremy, because I was like, obviously I've got to get a photo with Jezza, you know. So I was like there, and I was like, you're going to win. And he was like, yeah, I think we might. And I was like, great. And I was like, if you don't win, we'll just do the revolution next year. And he went, yes, we will. And I was like, what? And I was like, do everyone know that Jeremy's on like backup plan is the revolution next year? But yeah, I'm busy this year, so it has to be 2025 for the revolution. And also I've been telling, because I have to keep moving back in with my mother because stand-up does not pay great. So I'm a 34-year-old woman that regularly goes home to my mother, and my mother is 77 years old. Yeah, it's too old. And for the first time in her life, not too old, of course, people are allowed to be 77. But for the first time in her life, she's got a speeding ticket. Yeah, and she's having to go to driving school, like speeding school, and she's really pissed off. I mean, at this point, I'd have taken the points on her license. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's not waste any more time. No, she needs to die for me to buy property in London. Have to be reasonable. But she's really pissed off about it because where it's a 30 mile per hour speed limit and she was going above it, the reason it's 30 miles per hour is because there's a private school there. She doesn't feel like she should have to slow down for private school kids. Yeah. In case you wondered where I got my socialism from. But I've been hanging out at my mum's house, and my mum and her old friends all do this thing on Wednesdays where they have boiled eggs in the morning. And if I'm at home, I'll sit there like with them, like drinking a cup of tea, like listening to their chat. And they're all old, aging socialists. And I was like, yeah, the revolution's coming, the revolution's coming. They're all like, oh, we're so tired. And I'm a bit worried about it because the average age of this country is 55, and that's not good if everyone has to have a nap at 3 p.m. for the revolution. And then we were trying to decide when we should do the revolution, and I'm thinking May. Yeah? Because people are too depressed in the winter. So, yeah, we got to get past that. Yeah, there's a whole thing anyway. All right, well, I feel like I was going to go back to threesome chat maybe somehow. No, but I'm actually trying to diversify the people I sleep with. I sleep with a lot of very middle-class, straight white men, but I also self-harm as a teenager, so... That joke can go one of two ways. So at the moment, I'm trying to diversify the people I sleep with. So last year, I took myself to a queer femme arts residency in Poland. Yeah, and it was so good, like 150 artists, crumbling 17th century palace in Poland. I was like, this is it. This is going to be my sexual awakening. And I decided the person I was going to sleep with at the queer femme arts residency was Mark, 40, lives in Archway. Who I incidentally ran into at the Corbyn rally earlier. He was like, hello, and I was like, ah! It's Mark. But yeah, we were like making out for 2 days, and I was like, this is amazing. And like, I was like really excited. I was like, on the third day, we're going to have sex. And I was really hoping to get railed in the chapel. Because everyone wants to get railed in the chapel, right? Like, that's what Jesus would do. So I was really excited about it. But then on the third day, he went and slept with someone else. Yeah. And I was really upset about it. And so we had to have like a deep and meaningful conversation. He was like, look, I'm just polyamorous, which like nothing against polyamory, but back in the day we used to call it hoeing in dem streets. And now it's all like ethical non-monogamy. And I was like, trust the white man to have a fancy word for being a hoe. Oh. I'm not wrong. But yeah, he was like, I'm just polyamorous because I don't believe I can get everything I need from just one person. And then like someone who mainly dates men have never like emotionally, spiritually, intellectually fulfilled me. And I've never thought the solution to that was like 5 more men. It's insane. That's why we have a consumerist problem. People just picking up things they don't need all the time. But yeah, there was a second opportunity, though, that maybe we would hook up at the art residency, because I stayed behind to help, like, pack down. And there was one night we dragged a mattress into the chapel, and we put, like, 5 candles around, and I was like, this is amazing. I'm going to get railed in chapel. I was so excited. And then he brought in 5 books and read me a bedtime story. Yeah, and I fell asleep, because that's what happens if you read an adult a bedtime story. And I was really upset that I'd missed my opportunity. And I woke up the next day and I was like, okay, this is it. This is my final moment. This is my last chance to get railed in the chapel. And so I woke up the next morning all like trying to be real sexy. And I was like, I rolled over. I was like, I'm quite wet. And he was like, oh, well, that seems like a you problem. And then he got up and left. Yeah, isn't that upsetting? Isn't that the most upsetting thing ever? But don't worry about it, because actually my friend Emma came to save the day, because she drove me like 9 hours back to Berlin. Lovely Emma. And we got back and she let me stay at her house, and we were in the bed later, and she was like, she rolled over and said, do you want me to make you come? I know, because classic woman finishing a task a man started and didn't complete. Ridiculous. All right, I don't know quite what I'm going to leave you on. Do you want... Because I'm just so anxious about the threesome. I was going to maybe do a period sex joke, but that's not going to make you horny. Yeah, oh yeah, okay. Just good to know, isn't it? Okay, it's a story from when I was sleeping with this French guy. I know, it's like I'm on Brexit relations. He's a very forward-thinking feminist French guy, because he was having sex with me whilst I was on my period. Yeah, a lot of men won't. I don't know why not. Free lube. I'm poor. And then I made what I thought was quite a good joke. I said, oh, you're not going to go down on me? And he was like, no, why would I? You're on your period. I said, oh, that's so weird. I thought the French liked their meat rare. I don't know if that was the right joke. You guys have been absolutely lovely. Thank you for having me.
That was Kate Cheka. That was a really great set, Kate. Thanks very much. And so you open with a strong start about the Jeremy Corbyn canvassing, which is a very clear way of indicating that you're one of us. And also you won. Hooray! So well done, you.
Yes, there's a one.
And but I mean, you talk also about your sort of posh voice. So your voice is quite posh. I mean, no judgment.
Yeah.
I think it's more or less as posh as mine. But for those who aren't subscribed to the Patreon and therefore who can't see the video, can you tell the listeners what you look like? What accent would you expect yourself to have?
I don't know what accent you'd expect me to have. I'm a mixed-race black woman.
Mm-hmm.
I look 30 apparently, which is great news. I've just found out. But I do wonder like what voice you'd expect to have. It's an accident. The voice is definitely not like. I mean, I guess at some point it was a choice, maybe. But I was born in London, but then I grew up in the West Country, and I didn't want to pick up that accent, so this is what happened. And also I lived abroad a lot, and when you live abroad you sort of it's easier for people to understand the more RP you are. But I guess the voice thing was on my mind probably then, because that would have been just before I did my debut at Edinburgh, and I had a director who was very insistent. He wanted me to address my voice in the show, and I was very insistent that I didn't want to do that. But
so what were the factors there, and what made you decide to address it?
So he said, you sound really posh, and you need to say that you're really posh so that people know. You need to address your voice. People need to know you know. It's the classic that with comedy, there can be no elephants in the room. There's everyone needs to like know that you know. And I felt like, for me, I guess I just expect my audiences to be smart. Maybe that's only Quantum Leopard audiences, but like, I expect my audiences to be smart, and I understand the concept of like code switching, and that like not everyone who is maybe a person of color or from a marginalized community necessarily has like an accent that's like a city accent. I expect them to know that, but maybe I shouldn't have expected them to know that in Edinburgh. I did get a little bit of sort of tea. I got like a little moment where I got a lot of the judges in my Edinburgh Hour show, and I had a little secret feedback that one of the things they wanted from me was to address my voice earlier on in the show.
Right. Okay, so you're feeling like there's pressure from within the industry.
I think British people are very obsessed with class.
Yeah.
I just think it's such a thing, and it's so culturally a thing to be obsessed with class. And at this point I've been back in London longer than I was in Berlin, but like in Germany you don't talk about class. Not that it doesn't exist, but it's definitely not such a reference thing. And I don't know, I think class is really complicated. Like, I was a free school meals child, I had a single mother. There were points where we had, I was growing up on our household income of like about 10,000 a year. Like, these all things would suggest that I'm working class. But on a social level, that my mother was a teacher, the sort of kind of cultural things we do, I would never necessarily describe myself as working class, but then like, how do you want to measure it? Like, it starts becoming this meaningless thing where like people are like, oh, I'm working class, and then you find their parents are on loads of money and like have a really big house, and so I don't know, class is complicated, and I don't love to pander to the British class obsession, if I'm honest.
I think that's absolutely fair enough. I mean, you've got your standard like economic and sociological definition of class, which is about you know, occupation and your relationship to the means of production, right? So unless you are subsisting on rentier income, then you've got a plausible case of being working class, like occupation. Right? Are you principally funded by your labour, right?
That's the thing. Like, am I selling my labour for money? Yes, I absolutely am. Therefore, I am the proletariat. That's how I feel about it. But
but I mean, in terms of like the British obsession with class, I mean, like all the things that you're referencing there are like totems and artifacts of a middle class to haute bourgeois set of cultural expectations, and those are things that you've got and acquired there. I think a lot of the quote unquote British obsession with class is about those cultural markers more than it's about the the sort of the underlying sociology of it, because there's a class system 100%. Everywhere. And this is why I will occasionally have people in my life who I'm very close to say, oh, well, my country doesn't have a class system. And I'm like, bitch, please. Like, look at your society. What is wrong with you? Everywhere does. It's just that the markers are different and the goalposts are in a different place, which is...
the markers are different, and they're super cultural. And it's funny, like, because I dropped out of school at 16 and I worked in M&S as a checkout girl, and I worked in a box factory, but then I also went back to school. And the way I sort of funded myself back to school was essentially doing a sort of kind of benefit fraud of like signing on to job seekers to get my A-levels cheaply paid for and so on. And I got EMA. We got EMA back in the day for any
Old
people a bit younger. We all got £30 a week for going to school past 18 or 16, and that's how I went back to school. And then I went to fancy university. And so then I went to one of the fancy universities, and then after that, it's weird because then that alienates you from the class you come from, but you're never accepted into their class either, because you're also not from the private schools or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like whatever points of differentiation there are within that environment will mean that, like, even if you are partially accepted by some metrics, there will be other dividing lines, right? Like, so, you know, I'm middle class and went to a very good university, but, you know, my northernness was a factor in, you know, that sort of differentiation, and my politics was a factor in that sort of differentiation in terms of, you know, so where, you know, it's not an entirely undifferentiated milieu. So, I mean, that's an interesting story about you dropping out at 16 and then, like, re-engaging with education later. I mean, that's a journey, and that's a struggle. So, like, what prompted, what pushed you out of the nest into that journey?
So I dropped out of school at 16. I went to a school in a very small town in Wiltshire, and my teachers were quite racist. And so I dropped out at 16, and for a long time I sort of was very depressed in my bedroom. And then at some point, I think it was my teenage boyfriend's mother was like, you got to get a job. And so she took me out to Bath and like walked me around, and I got a job at M&S on the checkout. And then I went to Tanzania, which is where my dad's from, and he lives, at 17. And it was quite a cultural shock of a trip, and a bit stressful. And then also quite good in like kind of realizing your privilege. I think a lot of people don't, you if you're like the least middle class of your friends, you think, oh, I'm screwed. But then actually you kind of see, in like grand scheme of the things of the world, you're actually doing pretty all right. And I really wanted to go to London. I wanted to go back to London. Like, I'd moved from 6 years old to the Wiltshire, but like I'd spent my whole life being like, I want to get back to London. And I knew the way I could convince my mother to let me move back to London was if I said I would do my A-levels finally. So she agreed, and I moved into this basement bedroom in Brixton with this Irish woman and her Cameroonian husband and kids and grandkids, and and I was there, and I went back to college, and I did 2 A-levels, and I did very, very well. I got 2 A's, and I had a teacher who said, you should apply for Oxbridge. I think you've got... And like, that was very alien because I dropped out of school and no one thought I was going to do any of that stuff. And he was like, no, you should aim for this thing. And so I aimed for it, and I got it. And I don't know whether that, in hindsight, was like the best place to be, but it was a good fuck you to everyone who had doubted me. It definitely felt very satisfying in that regard to turn around to all of the people from this small town who had maybe thought I wasn't capable, to be like, Well, actually, very good.
Well, I mean, that's a bit true. I think, sometimes malice is its own reward, right? And people say that happiness is the best revenge. I'm like, no, the sad looks on the faces of people that you've, like, definitely exceeded is like, that's actually better. I think yeah.
I feel like revenge has been my motivating factor in most of the things I've done in life.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah. So you say that and then you laugh about that, but like,
yeah.
So all right, so we've talked about that, and like that's revenge in that setting, and that's you've been the underdog, in race and class terms in your hometown, right? But I mean, like, does that does the revenge as the motivating factor extend to other areas of your life? So what about like personal relationships, like?
Yes. I mean, do I carry out revenge on people that I think have wronged me? Absolutely. Like, there are many men who are now in my stand-up against their will, I think.
Well, I mean, this is a neat segue, actually, into some of the other bits later on, right? So, you've got your arts residency in Poland for a sexual awakening, right?
Yes.
So you're going there for the sexual awakening. And, like, it sounds to me like you're already pretty awake already, right? So, I mean, in terms of men who've been incorporated into your stand-up against their will, so, I mean, like, what are you looking for that that 40-year-old white men can't provide?
What, from a relationship?
From a relationship? Yeah, I think so. From a relationship, right? Like,
or from like, I mean, I just think I would do better to be queerer and date more queer people. I tend to just date a lot of like cis heterosexual white men, who are like 40. I just broke up with one recently, and I don't know why. And I think I know why. It's because they often own a house, and I don't own a house. And there's something about it that sort of it advertises itself as stability.
Yes.
And I think, and then there's a part of me that I was a country girl. Like I came from a small town. All my friends are married with kids. There's part of me that kind of like craves. I didn't have a dad growing up. I crave this like, stability thing. So I think, this is a good idea. But I think the reality of who would provide better in terms of like enjoyment of literally conversation and quantity of orgasms would be someone who was queer. Like,
I mean, do our 40-year-old middle class cis white men are they the Oxbridge of sexual relationships? You as in it's a status marker.
Yeah, they're absolutely that. You want it because you're told that you should want it. And then you get there and you find like, oh no, this is full of all of the worst bits because they're too close to all the privileges in society, and they feed off them. Of course they do, because that's how they access their privileges and their things that they need. So yeah, that's the problem. That's exactly what it is. They're the Oxbridge of people.
I mean, I suppose we're also like the easier option, right? Like there's a lot of us around.
Yes, that's the other thing. They are really readily available. And it's also to do, like, I mean, I've examined it a lot, but it's also to do with, like, I'm not very necessarily good at putting myself out there. And so I sort of wait for people to find me, and they often are the ones with, like, a bit more confidence in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, and if you've lived a life that has been not exactly consequence free, but consequence light, then you're more likely to have that confidence and able to project yourself and put yourself forward from that point of view. Yeah. Okay. Lovely. Yes. Cool. I've got another question. One of our listeners, one of our regulars, Liam would like to know: is the guy from Berlin who disappears every Friday night like he's Jesus single? ?
The question of whether people are in Berlin and single or not is, I don't think it matters, because everyone in Berlin is in an open relationship. So what the amount of people I met who I was like, I'm going to have this relationship with this person, and it's like, oh no, I am married with children, but I am also dating. Like, this is just Berlin. Like, the single thing is, you're fine in Berlin. There's no monogamy in Berlin.
I mean, I think that leads in quite neatly. So I think your description of polyamory as a sort of a consumerist approach to relationships, I think that's really interesting. So I've heard a lot of people talk about it as if it's some kind of revolutionary position, that it's liberating from the shackles of bourgeois social expectation, and I think that is a case that can be made. But I think the converse argument that it's essentially a neoliberal approach to relationships that privileges individual fulfillment over social bonds is also very tenable. So, like, where do you sit on that spectrum outside of punchlines about it?
Outside of punchlines, I don't care what anyone does. I never care what anyone does. Like, knock yourself out, live your life. Like, I'd love to be polyamorous, but I find it hard enough to find one partner, let alone multiple. So it's not something that I've done much of. I'm not super into monogamy. Like, my kind of whole vibe is you go out, you want to touch someone else's body. I don't think that's that deep. I'm not interested in owning what someone does with their body or whatever. And likewise, if people can, like... You're like, I don't know who's got the time in London under capitalism. We're so exhausted and burnt out. But if you've got time to, like, love multiple people. Like, more power to you. I think the joke is specifically targeting this man that I met at the art residency, and a very specific kind of man that I think sometimes is very steeped in, like, queer theory or black feminist thought or whatever, that then uses it to their own ends. And I felt... when the conversation came about, like, I was sort of like, hey, I thought you were going to sleep with me, and then you didn't. You slept with someone else. Like, I was a bit like, hey, what happened here? I thought this was the plan.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I'm polyamorous. It just felt like this label you could use to brush away someone's legitimate feelings about it. And I actually think, knowing polyamorous people, like, that's not what I've seen from them. The majority of the people I know that practice polyamory are very, like, mindful of people's feelings and so on, and I felt like it was a way of not having to deal with my emotions.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of these things where it's very much like you can use the language of it to cloak more malevolent approach. Like, oh well, my local council is rewilding this park. Are they rewilding it, or have they just stopped maintaining it? You know what I mean? And then there's very much that, but for feelings. I think with those who are poly and those who are simply slagging it about with a laissez-faire attitude to the emotional harm they might cause. Those are quite
socialism in the streets, but capitalism in the sheets.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool. So, I really enjoyed your hero's journey of one woman's struggle to get railed in a chapel. So I think you do a really good job of what I really want artists to do, which is go off and have adventurous experiences and then come back and tell us about them. So, you've talked about this quite a lot in this chat as well. But are there any parts of that story that didn't make the edit, that didn't fit the format or the structure of the stand-up set?
I mean, like, so much. I mean, the reality is actually, like, something did happen, but it was, like, not very good. And it was after a whole of sort of 36 hours of being up too late. And I look back and I don't feel great about it. And so, yeah, there was definitely more elements to the thing. And it's funny because I kind of end it with, like, which is true. My friend Emma did say, do you need me to make you come? And, the truth is, she didn't make me come, but I did make her come. So I don't know.
That doesn't end the story as well, does it? You need a big finish, right? Like, anecdotally and sexually within the structure of both of those things.
Yeah. It's funny though, because I've now done this stand-up set where people have known who this person is. So I went to the same arts residency a year later after doing my hour show at Edinburgh, like, every day. And I went a couple of weeks after, and they'd said, would you like to put on a comedy show? I said, well, I've been doing my hour every day. I can do an hour.
Okay.
So he's there at the residency. But most importantly, when I began my hour show, he was not in the theatre where we were doing the performance. And so I do my hour, I get to the bit where I've got to talk about him. I look around, he's not in the theatre. I said, I'm just going to use his real name. It's not important. I start doing this bit. From the top, there was like a kind of balcony situation. This is like a kind of mansion, like palace in Poland. There's a balcony situation. He comes out the back. I see him, and I am slagging him off to this room of people who all know who he is. He comes out the back. And then obviously he's so angry. So he starts to engage me in conversation. I was like, oh no, he's here. And he was like, you told me you were polyamorous too. And I was like, we are not going to argue about this while I am on stage. He was really, really angry. And everyone obviously was doing, it was like pantomime. Everyone was like, oh my God, like, wow, this is happening. Like, watching this real life interaction. I've never done someone's like comedy directly at their face in front of all their friends. Like, that's pretty mad. And then I get to the bit with Emma and I say like, oh, my friend Emma's sitting there in the room. She's like third row in. Everyone starts shouting, Emma, Emma, Emma. Everyone's like loving Emma. Emma was like, it was amazing to have everyone shout your name. Because you'd offered to make your friend come. It was so funny. And yeah, it was really insane. And then afterwards there were a couple of people who were like, okay, you need to apologize to him. Like, he's really upset. And then I was like, okay, I will apologize. And then I probably said this. I tried to apologize, but maybe after someone had given me a mushroom. And I will say right now, don't apologize when you're like not quite grounded on 2 feet in the world, because it won't track. I sort of said sorry and he was like, it's not okay. And I was like, you know what? I'm not sorry.
I love that view. That's amazing.
Yeah, I wish for the life of me someone had this on like video footage, because it was so insane.
That's phenomenal. That's absolutely phenomenal. All right. It's been lovely chatting. Last question. If there's one thing you could say to yourself at the age of 18, what would it be?
Stop being so afraid. Just be braver. I think it's that there's an Audre Lorde thing, which is like, your silence will not protect you. You're going to be afraid anyway. So just say the thing. Stop worrying. Don't worry. Don't wait for your friends is what I'd say. Because I think I always waited for my friends to do the things with me. Like, don't wait for your friends. Just go out in the world. Say the things you need. Be brave.
That's wonderful. That's really, really lovely. Excellent. Super. All right, that was a lovely chat, Kate, and a really great set. If people want to track down your stuff, where can they seek you out? What have you got to plug?
Yes, Instagram, Kate Cheka, Katecheka. Yeah, find me there. I plug all my shows. I'm going to be writing another show this year. The Last Funny Woman is the title right now. So if it's hitting you up near where you are, then please come and help me figure it out.
Lovely stuff. Amazing. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Yay, thank you. Bye.
That was the Quantum Leopard podcast. If you want to catch a live show in London, look us up at linktree/Quantum Leopard to sign up to the mailing list. We will never take advertising, because advertising is cultural poison, but from each according to their ability to each according to their need. So if you enjoyed our guests in your ears, but would like them in your eyes as well, we have videos of whole shows up on patreon.com/Quantum Leopard. We only charge when a new live show video comes out. If you enjoyed the show, why not give us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice, and or share this episode on the socials. Editing was by Rhys Lawton, who is conventionally attractive and fun at parties. Music was composed and produced by Rooks Production Services at I Am Rooks on the socials. That's Rooks with an E. The Quantum Leopard podcast is distributed and licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 international license, which means you can share it as much as you like, but don't change it or sell it in any way, because I will find out where you live. Kind love, and see you soon. Bye.
Thank you everyone for listening today, and thank you especially to our top tier patrons, who we could not do this without you. The wonderful Gareth, the brilliant Jenny, the incredible Kate, Niblick, whose glory is brighter than a billion suns, Richard, who makes angels weep, Terry, who's just so superb that those who gaze upon them weep at their loveliness, and also another Richard. We've got 2 Richards. We've got 2 Richards who are our top tier patrons. What a delight. Thank you so much. We genuinely could not do this without you. You're the best. Okay, bye.
I didn't know you had to be self-deprecating when you did comedy, and I'd say, I think I'm so beautiful I should be taxidermied after I die. You know, it's just
rather you than Jeremy Bentham, right? Like, if you're going to have human taxidermy mounted in the foyer of a university, like, yeah.
Exactly. Like, get me, and, like, the future generations can see me. Like, why not?